Okay.
Okay, so tonight, Carl Purcell, as Ann just said, is coming to us from Utah. The things that he paints are things that I find common to us in Western New York. Lots of farms and nature and the woods and farm implements and stuff like that. Flowers, just beautiful, extraordinary work. And I'm just so pleased that Carl could, Carl, I'm sorry, I don't mean to blow you out of the water here, but their work is just superb watercolors. So in any event, tonight, a man who has an extensive list of credentials in many, been teaching for a long time, has worked in all kinds of places, will tell us about how he makes, I like to say, the particular magic that he makes, because it really is. I'm really very anxious to see how he makes this magic. It's not simple stuff. It's just gorgeous work. So with no further introduction, Carl Purcell, would you please tell us how it works? Unmute yourself. Getting there.
You're there.
There you go. Okay.
All right. All right. So you want me to tell you about me or what?
Well, we want to see what you do.
Okay.
The things that you've told us about yourself, if people are interested in those kind of backgrounds, that's all on the NFWS website. You'll be able to see your own demo in a day or two when it gets put up on the NFWS YouTube site. But in our newsletter, all that information is there, your extensive credentials. So not so much about that, but more, how is it? How did you get into it? What do you do? What makes you choose the things you choose?
Well, from early on, when I first started as a student, I was really fascinated by the world around me, and I just wanted to understand how to get it down. So like most people, I started painting things, how to paint this tree and how to paint that and so forth. And it was quite a while before I realized, wait, some of the painters that I really admire aren't painting stuff as much as they are painting patterns of things. And the world around me is just what we see as patterns. And I think it's just beautiful. I think God did a really great job on this world. And sadly, we're screwed up with our governments and things, but basically what's out there is just gorgeous. And I find, for example, just the branching of trees, how every single branch is different than every other branch, and yet related. Like we are all different, but we're all related. I think the world is beautiful, and my goal as an artist has always been to help others see the beauty that's around me. Now, I know that's not a deep philosophical thing. I don't have an artist's statement that's hard to understand, and so you pretend to understand me. I think one of my favorite statements about art was made by Gilbert and Sullivan in one of their operettas. He said, he had somebody say, "If you desire for to shine in the high aesthetic line, you must gather up the germs and the transcendental terms and plant them everywhere. You must lie upon the daisies and discourse in novel phrases of your complicated state of mind. The meaning doesn't matter if it's only idle chatter. And as you walk your mystic way, everyone will say, if this deep young man can express himself in terms too difficult for me, why, what a singularly deep young man this deep young man must be." Wow. A lot of that goes on in the art world, and I just never felt a part of it. So I just want to show people how beautiful the world is around. And even old stuff, buildings and things. I think the pattern of shapes is just extraordinary, and I love working with it. So flowers, basically, I don't think of it as painting flowers. I think of it as painting a pattern of shapes. They might be colorful, they might be white against a dark, whatever. But it's just a pattern of shapes, just like what I'm going to do here tonight. And I'll show you this I've got the drawing here. It's a pattern of shapes of these buildings going across here at an old farm that's across the street from the college, and it's still there. And the first time I went there, the lady told me to get the hell off her property. And I just knocked on the door and asked her if I could go in and do some drawing, and she said that to me, and I didn't go on back until she died. And then the building's kind of gone into disarray. It's gradually falling apart. But I've taken a group of painters there every summer since she died.
Oh, that'll teach her.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm about. Is just, and I chose watercolor because it was about the same temperament as I am. Impetuous. Okay, do you want me to start?
Sure.
All right, I like to start with a pattern of color that will unite the painting in one go, and just leave the white shapes. Whatever I'm going to leave white, I'll do that. So here I go. I take a deep breath because this is the scariest part, that first brush stroke. But you have to just embrace the fear, you know? And I decided I want a sky over there that's quite warm to begin with. And I'm going to take this color, change to a cool color. Over here, a little warmer than that. And all of this is going to be not white. So I'm just going to take that wash right down over this. And it's a kind of a neutral color, so I don't have to worry about it. Let's see. And all of that. I just have to make sure I keep things wet. You don't have that problem out there, but we do here. Things dry fast. Consequently, we have to work a little faster. The window closes up pretty quickly. That's already starting to dry over there. And let's see, I'm going to take this down to here and into here. I think I'll leave a couple little pieces. I like to leave a few pieces of white that I don't know what they'll be. I want those shapes white. I'll go back to this yellow here. This looks haphazard, and I think a lot of times a watercolor looks like it's spontaneous, even though it's really quite methodical. I wonder if I want that light. Yeah, I'm going to leave that light. And this, I think I don't want that white, so I'm going to go with a cool color on this. Painting around everything is a mistake, I think. It ends up not being very united. Well, I left a white shape there that I didn't, and I just got rid of a few that I did want. That's all right. And I'm going to bring some of that yellow down here so it's fairly united. That'll be my white shapes dancing across there. And I'm going to take a paper towel and just hit some areas there. That'll look white later.
Carl, I'm sorry, but could you say what is the yellow and what are the gray or blue-gray you're using?
Okay, I'm using for the yellow ochre and new gamboge,
Okay.
and for the blue I used ultramarine. Okay, then I'm going to let that dry. There, that's close. Can you see the value pattern of the light pattern? Now what I've done, I've created a little value pattern here. This was almost all in my resource photo, almost all the same value. And I forgot to do something. I was gonna. So here's my value pattern, and what it is, these pieces of light going across here, but the dark is a pattern that moves across here, down, and then back. So a plan like that is very simple, but it's connecting all these similar values into a total pattern. That's my goal. And not to get hooked on any one thing to the point that I lose track of that pattern. I'm going to set that right there where I can see it. Now, let's see. Can I take a moment? I'll just blow dry this with a hair dryer. So this will be a little noisy for a second, but just enough so that I can get back onto it. That's quite a bit of water at the beginning. When you dry it with a hair dryer, one problem, if you get too close, it pushes the water out of the little valleys in the texture of the paper, and so it flattens it. So that if you stay optimally about at least 6 or 8 inches away from the paper, that resolves that. Okay, that's enough. You didn't come here to listen to a hair dryer.
Carl, are you working from a reference photo or just from your value study?
Okay, that's a good question. What I do is I go out and I do I take a photo of what I'm looking at, but I also do a drawing at the same time, and my drawing is somewhere in one of my sketchbooks, because the drawing isolates what I like about the scene, and my camera doesn't. I've talked to it, but it doesn't listen. I've said, just forget about that and that, just focus on, and it's unresponsive. So I've learned to do a drawing that isolates what I like, so it creates a second reality. That my camera is very faithful about recording everything exactly as it is, but I don't want to paint that. I want to paint my view of it. So I do the drawing, then I bring that back. Then I do a little value pattern like this to help solidify what I want to do. And then I work from the value pattern. Sometimes I'll just work straight from the drawing if the drawing has a good value pattern. But I like the value pattern because it organizes the darks and lights for me, minus the color. And the color is arbitrary, really. What I can do here for you is put my palette up there for you to see, and I'll just move my painting. Let's see, just a minor change here, and then move it that way, there. Now it doesn't encroach on the painting much. Whoops. But you can see the palette, then you can see the colors I'm using. Does that help? Yes?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to wet this area right up here. I'm going to start up here and bring my pattern across this, especially the dark tree. What I did in my drawing that was different than the photograph, this big pine tree was actually over here, out of the picture. I just moved it over so it would be a dark behind this light shape, and it helped develop this as the dominant area. I also planted a tree here that they didn't apparently have the sense to plant. And this is going to be kind of fun here because I haven't really, I like to just draw some lines and discover the tree as I go along. So all this stuff in here, and then this calligraphy, and this fence will be calligraphy. What I don't like to do is draw a little line down both sides of a fence post and then fill in between the lines. That turns it into a paint by number. Even if I did the numbers, still. Okay, I'm gonna just, now I think I'll use a round brush for this. Well, maybe I'll just use that just to wet that area. The brush is your greatest friend. So holding a brush like this and you stroke is crazy. It's so versatile, and you can come up above and you can see the edge of it. And, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to put a value in there for a tree in the background here, and this is going to look pretty dark. When I go back for more color, I'll just change the color. And then I'm going to go to a really rich dark with phthalo blue, a little sienna, and a touch of that yellow. Maybe I'll need some, take it into a blue-green. I can add a crisper edge to it later. This is my big pine tree behind the house, and you can see what that's going to do. Why I'm doing this right now, I know you hear the admonition to start with the lights and work towards the dark, right? But I find that if I go right into that center of interest right here and punch that, I'm going to come in here. I meant to leave some light there, so I'm going to. Anyway, if I build that, the strong dark and light that I want, right at the get-go, then I know how far not to go with the rest of it. Okay, now I've got this strong dark and this, let's see, and I missed my edge a little bit right there. There. And I'm going to come in here with a shadow underneath that right now. Fortunately, I can't draw a straight line. Unfortunately, none of these are that straight. So let's see, I'll come in here and what did I have there? Oh, yeah. I like to do it in as few strokes as possible. And in fact, that whole thing, I don't want white. I'm thinking about that. I think I'll change that to a cool, so it's a cool color against that warm. And it's still wet, so some of that warm is going to bleed down into it. That's just fine with me. There. Take it right to the edge. If the edge is soft, That's not a problem. What's funny is I went through all the years of, the undergraduate and graduate, and nobody ever talked about edges. Just going to wet that a little and then come into that. The only thing you can paint realistically, really, actually, is a shape, because this is a flat surface. So there are two kinds of shapes, interesting ones and boring ones. And since the only thing I can paint is a shape, I want it to be interesting, and it has certain characteristics. It has directional thrust. It has, let's take that out there. It has dimension, lighter, has value, and it also has edges. And those edges vary from very crisp, hard edges to very soft, even lost edges. So I'm thinking here, I wouldn't mind some of these tree forms back in here just a bit. And take that one up a little higher. There, okay. Now, let's see. I'm going to, a mountain in the background here. I'm going to leave some pieces of light for that tree. Some of the trunks, and not the whole thing, just bits and pieces. And I don't want the edge of it to be too hard. Oh, let's see. I want it to end over here. Not at the corner. So I'll come in here and soften the edge. That'll help push it in the background. Now my value pattern. Sweet. When I go straight to it, I'm going to really hit this, some strong darks. This is my darkest dark right in here. That's not going to dry that dark because it's got quite a bit of water in it. Yeah, that'll dry darker. And if I want a soft edge on some of that, I have to be thinking about how this is ending. Every shape, how it ends, that dark, how it ends. And here, what I want in here, let's see. So we'll lose a little of that. My value pattern is, yeah, okay, it's intact. Okay. Now that's getting more defined all the time, isn't it? I'm thinking I want that kind of cool here, but not that dark. Add a little water to it. And if it still looks a little too dark, I can always just hit it with a paper towel and lighten it a bit. And the reason I have to take a deep breath every so often is I'm really not absolutely sure what I'm doing. I have a plan there, but that doesn't mean I'm going to follow it exactly. And there are things that happen along the way that I see happening, and I paint primarily with my eyes about half closed. Wait a minute, that should be up here. Okay, that's the top of the, all right, I'll leave that there. Richard Schmidt, in his book Alla Prima, said that when we look at, and this is true, when we look at paintings by John Singer Sargent or Sorolla or any of those, we're seeing what they saw with their eyes half closed. And it's very true. In order to see patterns, you have to close your eyes or shut them down to where you're only seeing the pattern, not the detail. I want a nice warm color coming across here. I can always darken those lights that I left. Little color, never hurt anybody. I'm gonna put a little in that. Now, how dark was I going with this? And I want to change color. I don't like to have it one color. What I have noticed about the world around me is that there's this nature will change color but not value. So a whole area will be one value, but it will be, my hand's getting into the wet. Maybe one value, but it'll be made up of a number of different colors. So I'll move into a blue there. Then I think I'm going to go into a little more sienna here. In fact, right there, I may just drop some rich orange in there. And then I'll come back to the cool. There, that changes from warm up at the top to cool down at the bottom. Okay, now I'll move back here. This is going to be predominantly warm back here. The house. This is the house back here that the old lady lived in that was so nice. I mean, I explained to her that I taught art over at the college and I would really appreciate given the permission to go back in there and draw, and I didn't even get finished, and she told me where I could go. I'm not used to that. Most people are quite nice about it. You know, you ask them if they minded if you slip in and take some photographs or do a drawing. They're quite chuffed about it.
I think most people are tickled that
Yeah.
you think whatever they have is valuable enough that you want to paint it.
Exactly. Well, that chuffed, that's a British term. Means the same thing, feeling quite pleased about it. Yeah. Most people are. Okay, my dark is moving across here, up there, down through here, across. I'm going to add some more darks right there, create a bridge from this over to that. I might as well do that while this is. Um, let's see. This dropped down a hill here. Well, that's quite interesting. There was an old potato pit right about, well, maybe it was down here a little ways further, that I almost fell into. It had caved in, and then weeds had grown over the hole, and I didn't notice.
That's why she didn't want you on her property. A lawsuit would occur.
Oh yeah,
What's a potato pit, Carl?
that's they would dig these holes and put a little roof over the top of it, and that's where they would store potatoes for the winter in these old farms.
It was a hole in the ground?
Yeah, it was a little room that they built down there. They might line it with rock or something, but it was below ground level, and then they put the roof over the top of that with boards and things, and then dirt on top of that. So it stayed about 55 degrees year round. You mean you don't have potato pits back in New York? Those guys never did that?
I don't
Most
know. I
farms in this
heard of
is-
root cellars.
root cellars
see-
or cold storage is what it's
Usually the
called.
root cellar was a smaller, more personal one. The potato pit was where they grew quite a bit of potatoes and wanted to store. A little bigger than the personal root cellar. But same idea, but it's covered over with earth, so it stayed. Okay, a little more here. This is one thing I love is calligraphy. In all the painting classes I took, they never taught us how to use the brush. And then I took it because there was this guy came for one semester, and he was on sabbatical, and they wanted him to teach, but the watercolor classes were already being taught, so they asked him if he would teach a brush lettering class because he was a commercial artist. And he said, sure. So since I had seen his paintings and I really wanted to take a class from him, but his name was Dick Bird. But I couldn't take a class, so I took that one, brush lettering. I was so glad I did because he showed us how to hold the brush and how to get the most out of it. Coming in from the sideways for a wider stroke or straight down for a fine tip. And I'll show you if you hold it right, brush like this, you can come straight down and keep the width. If you're holding it this way, you don't have a control over it. You can pull it, as you're pulling it this way, you can get a thin line, but as soon as you change direction, it goes fatter. So it depends on the direction you're going instead of you. So I can do a thin line, pull that down, twist it up, come off of that and make a thin and thick and thin again. It's a beautiful tool. I'll put this little thing in there, and let's see. That's the way to test for dryness. You just touch it, and if it leaves a fingerprint, it's not dry yet. Now with that there, I can wet it. And there's my chimney. And I should have brought that blue mountain back there right on down to here. Pattern. Oh yeah, let me finish this little bridge here. This is part of calligraphy. I have to decide how wide I want the stroke. And I think I want to change color there. That's some of that's just too much brown. All right, that'll take it over here to this. And a lot of the buildings and stuff on this place were kind of add-ons. Somebody thought that'd be cool. I need a little storage space, so I'll just build this little lean-to. All right, now there's a bridge take us across to here. What did I have there? I think one more, don't you? All right, now. There. A little darker right up there. Then had a window up in there. So with this all the little shapes, a lot of little broken shapes in here. That's what makes this area interesting. The more little shapes and more contrasts, that really draws the eye right there because it's so strong, light against dark. But where it's transitions into another value, it doesn't get your attention quite so much. That little piece of orange in there is nice for that window. What I don't like is boring windows that are all of them are the same. They're all black holes. So I like something different. And I noticed looking around that that's what happens too. Here, I'm going to make this is like a 4-pane window here. And I think we worry too much about logic a lot. Logically, would one pane be blue and the other one? Well, yeah, if one's reflecting and the other one isn't, why not? There we go. Now, all these little shapes draw attention to that. And now we'll complete that dark pattern. This across here, joining with this. Are we having fun yet? I am.
Yeah. It's having a good time.
This is fantastic, Carl.
But I work primarily with creating patterns. So instead of painting bushes right there, I'm putting the dark pattern in that I want. I'll change it and get some cool colors in it. And all this, wow, it comes clear up to here. I'm going to get a smaller brush and add some little, it's at the end of shapes that we see things like ragged leaf stuff. And so this is going to be all this coming down here. And there was I don't even know what it was. There was a bunch of growth along here of probably a hedge at one time. Didn't matter. Just interesting. And we should have some greenery in that, even though this is a little later in the year. And if I carry that right onto here and then patterns, instead of weeds or anything else, just the pattern. I want that pattern to lead in here. And so I'll lay my brush down and get a ragged edge to it. And varied in color. So, now we'll hit that and it'll get lost into all that stuff. And how's that working? And once again, I'm painting with my eyes about half closed. So I really get a view of that whole pattern. if my eyes are wide open, I see right at the end of the brush, that little spot, and I don't see it in relationship to everything else. I was just looking at something, and you really should have some cast shadow down, and that'll help with that. And I can come back later, and if I need to, add a little bit more to the fence, but I don't think I'll need to. Okay, now, whew, are we ready for some calligraphy? Some more calligraphy? Let's see. Let me end this.
Go for it.
I don't know how I want to end that. So my motto, if I'm not sure how I want something to end, when in doubt, 180 out. That's what RAF used to, the Royal Air Force. But my motto was, when in doubt, fuzz it out. So I'm not sure what I want, so I'll just hit water, and I can always deal with the soft edge. I can't deal with the hard edge that well. Okay, that's not looking too bad. As I look at it on the screen up there, all right, I think I'm ready for a little bit of calligraphy back here. I want to rather dark. I want to load this brush up. By the way, let me show you on my palette what I like to load my brush like this, drag it through a puddle of color. Then I can see what the color is. And then as I take off like an airplane, roll it between my fingers like that. That realigns all the hairs. Then I bring it over here and grasp it this way so I can control it. And I've loved studying the branching pattern of trees. The fact that everyone is different. So if I make them turn this way, the next one's got to be different. I can't repeat that. And if I do that, keep it consistently different, it's going to look realistic. But usually we're afraid of the complexity. See, now I want really thin lines. So anyway, we're afraid of complexity, so we do stuff like this. And we let that stand for a tree, but it's not much. Doesn't look like one, it just stands for it. And if I have this complex enough, a lot of limbs coming out, it's going to look realistic. I mean, that's the way it really is. If we do a simple symbol, we usually quit way too soon. See, in vertical like this, I can control it much better. And think about those old trees around these houses. They haven't been pruned in 50 years. So there's plenty of limbs. Okay, now the scary part, this part, that I really haven't planned a whole lot. So I'm going to have some fun here.
Carl, can you move your painting slightly to the left or your palette slightly to the right? That's it, a little bit more, a little bit more. Okay, now we can see more what you're gonna do.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I can move the camera too. Back this way a little bit.
All right, that's good. No, you're clear now, that's all.
Well, I want to make sure you're okay.
Oh, we're okay?
Okay, let's see. Where's my... All right, let's see. And we'll alternate that with some warm color. Instead of one tree at a time, I'll just take advantage of the stuff that I left and didn't leave. Because I want confusion. If I look at a whole bunch of trees, all growing together in the same place, I can't tell where every branch begins. Which one belongs to that tree trunk and which one, So I create places where I leave a little light. And now that one's in front of. Okay, that works. I see a little piece of light right there, and I didn't mean to leave that. So I'm going to incorporate it. Whew, okay. This is really quite a fun part. I love, after he showed us how to use the brush, I took that to my painting classes. I thought, oh, hey, that's a good little bit of knowledge to have. Instead of explaining every tree, which really goes against what we actually see. If you have any questions about what I'm doing, you probably do. Don't hesitate to ask. I don't want that to get too busy, so I may just take my bigger brush, bring that dark pattern, and incorporate the trees in it. Maybe I need to kill some of that. I have to remember, this is, as fun as this is a supporting role, and this is the main actor. So help me remember that. They don't give best supporting actor awards to somebody who overtakes the main character. I think I'm just going to, I wish I had taken care of that edge right there. Almost looks like it. That edge would be fine if I were going to put a building there, but I'm not. So I'm going to just soften that edge. and take that blue on down and move it into some warm tones for trees back in there. That time of year when things are getting a little dead. Yeah, now maybe that will calm some of this busyness here. And I think I'll just run some green color into it. That'll also tie that together with the colors up here. You know, the blue-green pine tree. And now I want a dark pattern here. My drawing shows a darker foreground here with the fence coming out of it. So that's what I'm going for. And I think, and I want it really broken up. I don't want a solid looking thing. So I'm going to take ultramarine and maybe I'll throw a little light green on there and just and notice I was painting with the edge of my brush, this side of it. And somebody could look at that and say, oh, that's a terrible way to treat a brush. But for me, the painting is more important than the brush. So if I have to buy a new brush after a while, but I found I had a 2-inch brush that I used for 30 years and it never wore out. Is that what I wanted? No, I think a little higher than that.
Carl, what size paper is that?
This is Arches 140 rough.
But what size? Oh, it's rough, but is it a quarter sheet, a half
Yeah,
sheet?
this is a quarter sheet. Spattering is a good technique, but I don't like it to look like spatter. So I usually will do a little spatter to loosen something up, but then spatter some water into it. So it doesn't look like 1,000 little dots.
Back where you softened that edge, Carl, did you use a sponge?
Yes, this is a very expensive imported sponge. You'll have to go to a local craft store to get it. They put it in accent pillows for couches, and you buy it by a square foot, and that's enough sponge to do you for a couple of years if you keep it in the dark. You know, someplace where it's not exposed to bright light. I just cut it into pieces like that. It's the best sponge I've found for this. Let's see. I want consistency, so if those trees are growing along here, they're going behind this too. That's what I see through the porch railing out there. Okay, bam, that's what I want to have happen. Okay, let me do a little bit more click. What time is it getting to be? I don't want to, oh, it's 6, okay.
Yeah, plenty of
You're
time. plenty of
fine.
time.
You have another hour.
Super. I don't notice the time when I'm painting. I notice the pattern and whether I'm getting where I want it to be. And I think I want that a little lighter. There we go. All right, now, if that one comes that way, then this one's got to do something different. This will look like it took a long time So you can tell your friends that I spent hours on these little branches. The key isn't spending time. The key is feeling the pattern and what it does and get the rhythm. And so you're dancing the same dance as the tree. A lot of them. Ooh, I know. I left some lights right here. I was intending for a branch to come. What I usually do is I'll look at a tree. Let me, for example, I've got a photograph here of a. Can you see that?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
I look for motifs like, okay, it comes out, down, and then curve this way. Then this one comes in a slight curve this way, drops down, down, and then curls back up the way. All right. So I'll find 5 or 6 motifs like that. And then I don't have to look at the tree anymore. I understand the patterning. And I can make all of them different. Say, okay, that one, I'm going to come up and curve the other way.
Carl, we're seeing okay, good. Never mind.
Your head was getting in the way
Oh,
and
I'm
the
sorry.
camera focused on your head instead of the painting.
And I realized that and I just backed up a little.
Okay, now you got it.
All right, now here, for example, I'll just do that. So it starts to come together, doesn't it? I mean, it has the same complexity as the real thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Then I also look at, all right, are there, in addition to the 5 or 6 motifs that I see in a particular kind of tree branching, I ask myself, are there any there doing something I would never expect? I wouldn't think of myself, you know? Yeah, this coming across like that. I wouldn't have thought of that, so I'll include that. Something coming from out the way. By the time I get through with this, the complexity up there will be fine, and I will have lost some of the eye candy down here. What I don't want is to have somebody be able to see, okay, this tree goes all the way down to here and it does this, and then there's another one just like it right next, you know. Funny how nature can do something so exquisitely different. And then we come along and regiment it. So I'm expecting something different. There, how's that? And I'm going to kill a few of those whites so it doesn't have too strong of a dance to it. Do you think that's competing with this? That's my question to myself, is if it's competing with it, I need to tone it down. And now, is that dry? It's not. I'm going to wait a second. Do a little calligraphy on that fence. Now I'm going to just suggest some of the brickwork. This old house over here was made of bricks. So I'll take my brush down sideways. And I trust you folks. I know that if I give you a few of them, you'll assume the rest of the building is made out of them. I need to have the courses running the way they should. And if some of these are a little too dark, that's what paper towels were invented for. They just ended up getting used in kitchens. There. That's enough to tell us that story, isn't it? While this is drawing, I'm just going to come up here and do the few little things on here that I want to do. Now this roof, shingles, really what we see in the way of shingles is not the shingle itself, but the shadow under the edge of it. So I'll come in here with a varied line, just a dot dash kind of Morse code. Short, long. Once again, I don't need to put them all in. The sun could be bleaching some of them out and you don't see it. There. Cast shadow on this one. I was lazy. I should have gotten a bigger brush to do that. And all of this one would be no, maybe I should warm that one up a little. While things are wet, you can change color. And I'm going to just take that as a dark down there on that old porch. All right. And I don't want you to get bored. So if you find yourself yawning, or if you have any questions, hey, feel free to ask. Unmute yourself and
Are you gonna do anything with brickwork on the front of that building?
I didn't quite understand the question. What?
The middle building that's your focal point. Are
This
you
one?
gonna make it in the part that's got the windows?
Yeah, what I think of is rather than a focal point, I think of an area. That area right there is what I want to be the dominant area, and everything else not quite so dominant. So I think what I'm going to do over here, that still bothers me a little bit, that tree is a little busy. So I'm going to take a limb here, right on across. Well, here's a little mistake a lot of people make. they get to the little ones out at the end. And so they say, okay, these are small ones. And they just end in little, no. They're smaller, they're skinnier, but they're quite long and graceful. My lilac bush gets a little weird on the branching, but see, this soft edge here doesn't bother me at all, because this is, I'm going to suggest the shingles in it, but
I was wondering about that red coming in there into that bluish roof.
they'll tie it together.
Okay,
I'll just come in here with and I'll have to end it, make sure I'm ending at the right place. Right. You know, so now it's there. What I'll define it with is a few things like the tree branches coming in from here will also define where that is. And since I don't want a really hard edge there anyway, there.
okay, that works.
And this is dry enough now I can come in and add some calligraphy to the fence post. I'm going to start a little lighter. It won't appear that much lighter, but how high do I want it? Maybe taller than that. Maybe all the way up to there. That'll actually tie it to the, instead of separating the fence from the other. And then and I'm going to do a little, instead of doing a line and a line and filling in between, I like the calligraphy that I can get with, for instance, this old fence is going to be falling down. But then part of it will stand back up again.
Carl, I want you to know how much I appreciate your thought process, not just a beautiful articulation, but just why you're doing and how you're doing. It's just been tremendous.
That's not difficult to do because I can't talk about a lot of things while I'm painting, but I can talk about what I'm doing because I talk to myself while I'm painting.
Okay, well, that works.
Yeah. My brother said to me one time, wow, you not only talk to yourself, you answer yourself. And he meant it derogatorily. And I said, well, it's the only chance I have around here of having an intelligent conversation.
I have to apologize, but I will be cutting out here very soon. As I mentioned before, I'm in Tucson and my daughter is about to arrive from Los Angeles.
Oh,
So when they come barging in the door, I'm going to get out.
Well, I have 3 brothers down there in Tucson,
Great place.
2 in Green Valley,
Yep.
and the other is just on the edge. Well, he's near Green Valley too. They're all 3 down in that region.
They play a lot of golf, I'm sure.
No,
No, wow.
one is a painter,
Uh,
one is a retired mining guy. He spent his life with Duval Mining Corporation,
right.
and the other is a retired teacher.
Uh,
And none of them play golf. I'm the only one, I think. I don't know if my oldest brother ever played any golf, but I've played a couple of rounds, enough to know that, you could get addicted to that kind of thing. And then it'd take away from painting. And a friend of mine who is really a terrific painter, he said, he asked me, what do you do for recreation? I said, I paint.
yeah,
No, what do you do to relax? And
he doesn't understand.
yeah, and I said, well, I paint. And he's a terrific painter. He said, well, I don't know. He said, I have to get away from it. I said, well, I just draw if I if I don't feel like painting. There, this is supposed to dance up to here and across and into that. Is that happening?
Yes.
And I'll have some of that. Yeah, in fact, some of these near ones, they can come right down here into this. Don't want it to be afraid to. There. Okay, then a little bit of not too dark. And I can take advantage of some little things that happen like that. Like some fallen tree limb. Okay, that should. Oh, so I'm almost finished here. Huh. I never know how long a painting will take. And I thought, well, this one will be fairly complicated, so it'll take that whole time. I want to knock those whites down there just a little bit. And then carry the ends up into the light. Oh, that was darker than I. Oh, okay. And we've got a few things right here. That little light shape. The nice thing about that was there was some boards missing. That adds a little bit more to that. And I'll give you a few, whoops, darker than I meant. Just enough bricks in the shadowed side. That ought to do it. And now I know how far not to go with this over here. I'm just going to suggest a couple boards there, and I know this one had some pieces missing too, but I'm not going to make as big a deal out of that, not as black. Just a little darker than the surface. And carry that orange from up there in the window down into here a little. It doesn't have to make sense, it just has to make cohesive sense, that is, containing the color. Gosh, this is fun. Do you know how lucky we are to get paint? There. Just to get to do this kind of thing instead of golf.
Instead of golf, yes.
But like golf, this is best done with the fewest number of strokes. So even though I've used a lot of strokes, I think when I do something like that, you notice I don't do this. That's mental stumbling or stuttering. Instead of saying something concisely, just put it down one stroke and call it. That's good. You notice I haven't read it for a long time, but I noticed in the Old Testament, in the story of the creation, it says, and God said it was good. He didn't say, let's see, what if I fiddle on that a little bit more? I wonder if what's happened. That's not quite right. Let me just play around with that a little bit. I like the fact that he said, there, that's right. I mean, what if it said, and God saw the light and said, I don't know, maybe that should. There, I just want to add a little bit to that pattern. A little suggestion of weeds and things that are growing up in there. Everything I want it to lead up to here and turn the corner and come and land right there. Is that what's happening?
Yes, that's what's happening. Yes.
Okay, see now, here's my guide. It didn't answer all the questions on this, but this just told me where I was going with that, and I stuck to it, which I'm pleased about. So that when I squint, I see the pattern moving down through here and across, little bridge, get over to, I did want to come back into these whites over here and drop them down just a little bit. So they're not eye-catching. Things like that, that's a small thing, but, you know. I think I'm going to add a crossbar to those just to repeat the motif that's up here. Okay. Actually, I think I'm finished with it. What time is it?
It's time to be finished.
Yeah. I do a painting and I think, okay, let me see. I don't want you to feel like you got cheated because it didn't go a full 2 hours of painting.
No, I
No.
don't worry about that.
Yeah,
We
Carl,
gotta-
remember, it's 2 hours later here. We have people that have to go to bed.
Oh, yeah.
And there are probably people who have some questions too, Carl, who'd like.
All right. Why don't I open it up for question and answer? And oh, I never actually came back with this right here. I wanted to add a little bit of solid ending to some of that. Like here, as those branches come out, there's pine trees are interesting. The branching is completely different. They reach out like this. Let's see. Like that, and hold the foliage. So if you go into under a pine tree to the trunk, you can actually look up and often see right to the top of the tree, because all the foliage is out here at the end of these. And I'll show you a little something. If you want to get that little pattern, paint it with water and lift out a little. Then come into that with the dark underneath it. Just to add a little depth to it. And since I'm in the area of the center of interest right here, this will just add to it rather than detract. Okay, now questions.
Do you ever scrape any white away?
No. Sometimes, however, I'll lift off with a sponge, with a little piece of tape, for example, and take like if I lost some piece of light, I wanted to go all the way across, like right there. I wanted a post to stick up beyond. Let's see, I think I'd rather have a ragged edge. Then I'll tape out the area that I want, get some fresh water, and take a sponge there.
Okay,
And that works pretty good,
yeah, that's great.
Can you talk about your color palette a little bit, Carl?
Yeah. So you can see it, right? In fact, let me just do this. Oh no, let me go to here. There, now you can see it big, right?
Yes.
All right, I organize it from the yellows up into the reds, across to the blues, and down to the green. So I start with this is some kind of cadmium yellow, then new gamboge yellow ochre, then pyrrole orange, then quinacridone sienna, then transparent pyrrole orange, then quinacridone burnt orange, and then I'm into the reds with I can't remember what that one is. I think it's this is quinacridone rose. I think that's quinacridone red, and permanent I'm never sure what the reds are. I just look at it this can't remember what. I know that one's quinacridone rose, but the others I'm not too positive on. This is permanent alizarin crimson, and that's carbazole violet. That's manganese blue and horizon blue and manganese blue hue. That's the original manganese blue. And then this is ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, sap green. And this I just used to try some different, like that one and this one, I try some different paints in it just to try it out and see if I like it. If I don't, I scrape it out and try something else in it.
I had a question about one of the branches that you have done on the tree. It's the one that's like right up front. And I was wondering, yeah, that one, there's light on top, but you didn't use any white to put on top. And I didn't
No.
watch because I was painting.
When I brought this down at the beginning, it wasn't white. It's actually this light color back here.
Okay.
And so I left these white, but this I just took that wash down. And I think I said this will look like white later, but it won't be. But anyway, yeah, I leave that. It's like this little painting here. This is a print of a painting I did of some aspens, and I think it's on my website. I just sold it recently. But this one I had to think about quite a bit because it was daunting. How was I going to get all that and the little piece of snow and light limbs? So I drew that tree, this one, and this one. But the rest, I didn't. I just put a bunch of lines going all kinds of directions. And then I started bringing that wash down. And when I hit one of the lines, I just skipped a space, left little bits and pieces all over. Then when I got all through, I came back with this kind of calligraphy. And when I found a piece of light, like right there, I just took a line over, skipped past that, and I just made some sense out of it. Take a line up here, leave that light, put a dark there. And so it reads with the kind of complexity that's really there, but without getting so tied up in the technicality of it that it looks mechanical.
Great,
So
thank you.
Yeah, I never used the liquid miscut.
It does not look mechanical.
No, that's what I want. I want that really gritty, organic.
Natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just leave bits and pieces, not intending a limb here, a limb there, just bits and pieces of light, and then I join them up with darker lines. So coming down here and picking up that light, continuing down.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
It's patterns that are more important than stuff.
So you make it work. You make it work.
And it's the patterns that make it work. Believe me. It's, any other questions? You mean I completely bamboozled you?
Yes, you have. In a most wonderful way.
Let me go back to here so you can see me while I'm talking to you.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was fun. And to me, that's just a joyous exploration. I create a plan like this, but, then I'm not tied to it. But I find that if I do a drawing that's too complete, then I want to paint up to the line and, and become mechanical. So I think of the subject out there as one reality, my drawing of it, the second reality, this little value study, a third reality, because this reduces it to simply pattern. And then this is another reality, finally. I'm looking at this painting. I wish that I had planned on leaving that. So I'm going to just do what I said I do. I'll take a piece of tape and I'm going to carry that right on up into the dark area. And then I'll put a piece of tape where I want it to end. I just didn't like it ending right at the dark. There. Now it goes beyond it. I could do the same to this one. Anyway, okay. Whoops. Wait, no, I don't want that. Oh, my tape landed on this thing. No. Anyway, yeah, okay, that's all right. It was just stopping recording. My tape, I put it down and I put it right on top of a key. So, any other questions?
Do you do much plein air painting?
Yeah. Every year I teach a workshop down in Zion Canyon, and that's all plein air.
Wow.
And that's a lot of fun. And I don't do a great deal because I have 5 big long screws in my foot. And so I don't feel like walking a long ways carrying a lot of stuff. So I go out with my sketchbook and I do drawings. And I really like working from the drawing because it's sort of, I mean, it takes it away from what was there to what I saw in my head. And I picture it up there. And so this is where the painting occurs, but it's inspired by my drawing. That's my plein air thing, as I do mostly, I do drawings. And even in Zion Canyon, when we go out, I do a drawing on site, and then I'll paint from the drawing primarily and look up for inspiration at those towering cliffs. But most of it's from my drawing.
Well, Carl, it has been an absolute delight watching you painting, and we
Well,
really appreciate your
let
coming
me,
to Western New York.
yeah. This is the kind of stuff I do. This is in my sketchbook. Oh, let's see, you need to, right?
Yeah,
And the paint splatters are on it from doing a painting from that. But this is a 6B pencil on Bristol paper. So I do those kind of drawings and then plan my composition based on that. But this has got the lead in and everything. I just don't take the time to do the sky. But my sketchbooks are full of those, and I've got, a lot of times I go back to the sketchbooks just for the inspiration. If I feel like painting and I want to do something, but I'm not sure what, I'll get a sketchbook out.
Carl, can you shoot a picture of that? We'd like to include it on our website
Of this,
of the finished, the one you just finished.
oh, this one. Yeah, the
Yeah.
painting here.
Yeah,
You bet.
terrific.
Let's see. Shall I just send it to you?
No, send it to Carol.
Okay, I'll need her
I
address.
guess it's to Sue also, but it's
Email
Carol.
address.
Carol's gonna put the web page together.
Okay. So who do you want me to send it to?
Carol Syracuse?
Email address?
Oh, I can't give you that off the top of my head, but you have it because she's communicated with you a lot.
Oh, Carol.
Syracuse.
It's
Yeah. That's what I kept looking at that and thinking, wow, she's in the right place, Syracuse. The name of-
it's C-Seer at something.
yeah, I've got it there. Yeah, Carol. So I'll take a picture of it and send it to you.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
job.
thank you again. It's
you're
been
welcome.
lovely, Carl.
Oh,
A
let's,
real pleasure.
wait, I was going to go back to you so I could see you, but
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. And thank you. I appreciate you inviting me, and be sure and check out my website. It's just Carl Purcell Art.
Thank you.
You bet. Have a good day or a good night. Sleep well, and
Don't let the bed bugs bite.
right, don't let the storm hit too hard.
No, the zipper-rumpazoos, Mike.
Okay.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We were delighted to host you all, and we hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to see it again, look at our NFWS YouTube page.
Couple of days, not right away.
No,
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm gonna end now. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Sue,
Good night,
thank
guys.
you.
Nice to be with you.